All right, what's happening? All of our favorite Move, Think, Smile followers and all of our superstars and rock stars in the Elite Performance Group. It is Adam Bonins, co-founder of Move, Think, Smile, coming at you live here with the founder of Move, Think, Smile, the ever beautiful Elia Fasharan. And, in the past week, we have received, a lot of questions. We've received a lot of questions on how to do things when all of a sudden conditions change. We've got this whole thing going on called social distancing. And what in reality, it's like, you see this all the time in business. Like all of a sudden conditions in business change. A client, a customer, a patient, they change their thing, whether they're an external customer, an internal customer, a contract goes through, does it go through? If you're in finance or if you're working and you own a business, you know how things can all of a sudden conditions just change. The environment just changes. Laws come out, things change, regulations, people change, all this stuff. But in light of, recent events and what's going on, a lot of people are sitting in like a lot of very specific questions on how all about coping with conditions. And so today what we want to do is we want to, dive into those questions. And the cool thing is, we've boiled them down to kind of like three main topics so far. Now, during this live Q&A, if you have a question, whether you're watching it live now or you're watching it at replay later, comment down in the box below and let us know if you have a question that we haven't answered. And we'll be sure to either do that now during this live, or we'll do it in a future episode, either tomorrow or later this week for sure. Yep. And so Elia, just, let's just dive right into this, and I think one of the thing that we're hearing more and more about, and this is kind of like a big topic now, people are sending the questions in different ways, but it really boils down to, number one, people are asking us, how do you deal with people panicking?
Yeah, this is a big one, right? And especially because panic feels really contagious. Like, if you go into the grocery store and suddenly you see that the shelves are really empty and you've never seen that before, you start to panic, right? So what's really important, of course, is to remind yourself, kind of take deep breaths, surround yourself with people that are staying in a really resourceful mental state as far as just, hey, we're going to get through this. Here are the things that we're going to do, and staying proactive. Really surrounding yourself with people that are thinking that way is going to really help. The other thing is to, if you're getting a lot of news that's causing you a lot of fear, start searching out news that's showing you that things are headed in a good direction. Read some of those stories about some of the amazing things that people are doing in the face of, uncertain conditions and things like that. I think that's really important. But the other piece, Adam, that I think, most people are worried about too is just, that business panic, right? You're in sales or you have your own business or, things with your career have suddenly shifted. And that can cause a lot of panic as well.
I think the thing that we're seeing a lot of, and this happens anytime there's a big something, right? The media is always looking for news. Now, I come from a background in media. I know how it works. I get it. You're always looking for the latest story. You've got to have something to talk about if you're going to have a news show, if you're going to have a magazine, if you're going to have a newspaper, if you're going to have a blog. You're always looking for something to publish. And so when something kind of picks up like this, then people, in order to talk about stuff, they end up, and someone will speculate, someone will give hypothesis, someone will do all this. And pretty soon, it's like when people start talking about worst case scenarios, everybody kind of conglomerates around the same possible scenario. It's like, oh my gosh, the stock market's crashing. Is this going to be another recession? And then all of a sudden it goes from recession. It's like, oh my God, is this going to be a depression? Like, is it going to go there? Then you have to go, it's like, oh my gosh, there's still no toilet paper. And then pretty soon you're just like, you're cycling through this stuff. And what's really important here, and we kind of talked about this the other day, is guys, you got to look at the data, not the drama. So if you find yourself getting wound up into this and you see other people panicking, the proper way to deal with it is to first just remove yourself from that environment. Now, it might be a low grade panic where you walk into the grocery store and like the entire cleaning agent and paper section is wiped clean, which I've seen several times in the past couple of days. And you're like, wow. Like I live in a hurricane zone with Cat 5s coming in all the time. And anytime a hurricane comes, the last thing to go is the toilet paper.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I have never seen this before. So people are doing really strange things based on theories that I don't know who started it or where it's coming from. But you really need to look at the data. In the grand scheme of things, toilet paper, there's so many other alternatives to that are
Yeah.
very, very easy to do at home that actually save you a lot of money over a period of time. So you can kind of look at it as that way. Now, if you're in an environment, Elliot, where people are literally like panicking, how do you deal with that? And you can stack on this, but I like to follow Krav Maga, and that is the Israeli fighting technique. It's kind of like their martial arts, right, of the Middle East. And the first thing that they teach you, and they go along into this, like a lot of training, is to avoid confrontation. So I think one of the best things you can do is to literally remove yourself from the situation. Now, there are times where you have to be there. So Ellie, how can you deal with, you've got the low grade panic where you're just seeing things and you're hearing things, but you're not really seeing panic per se. Then how do you deal with actual, oh my gosh, there's somebody completely losing it right now?
Yeah, this is an opportunity to step up as a leader, right? So, as contagious as panic can be, so can calmness, steadiness, connectedness, resourcefulness. That can also be contagious. So, if you see that happening, again, it's like really recognizing that if I hold the stronger frame of again, steadiness, of hey, we're going to find a way, hey, let's figure out how we can shift our strategies on business, that is going to be contagious, right? So if one is true, the opposite is also true. And I think that that's one of the most powerful things you can do to start shifting your mindset. And the other thing is really just remembering that, change is constant, right? So especially when it comes to the panic around business, is really remembering it's like, okay, we have some forced downtime. How are you going to innovate? How are you going to prepare for when things do bounce back? What are those things in your business or, in your career that you've been really wanting to shift? Well, now you have a perfect opportunity to try that on. So really looking at, again, what are the opportunities? How can I lead? How can I make steadiness contagious versus panic is a great place to start.
And, I do want to say out there, you said emotions are contagious. And they are if you let them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And this is the thing that we don't realize, that emotional energy produces a chemical reaction into a person. And when a
Yeah.
person feels that emotional energy and that chemical reaction over a period of time, their body literally gets addicted to it. And so they look to reaffirm that feeling, even though that feeling isn't doing anybody much good. Okay. So I'm sure you guys have all seen it. A happy person walks into your room with a bunch of miserable people, and pretty soon they crack in half, and they're just like, "Would you people just, or you see a miserable person walk into a room with a ton of happy people, and they fight it and they fight it and fight it, and pretty soon they'll crack a smile, right?
Yeah.
So it can be contagious. The trick is when everybody else is out there with an emotion that is on the lower end of the spectrum, how do you not let it drag you down like a crab in a bucket reaching up trying to pull you back in?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where a lot of tools and techniques that we teach our clients really come into play. I mean, there's 1,000 of them that we could go over. I think one of them, just to kind of give a taste is to talk about, the confident part.
Yeah, I mean, just remembering how capable you really are, reminding your brain of how, other things that you've been through. I mean, even just the recession in 2018, the ways that people got resourceful and things changed. And, this is something that, we keep sharing with our group, which is like, where is the opportunity in this? There is always opportunity. And if you can stay in that mindset, it's not about sticking your head in the sand and not taking precautions and not doing things that, are important to do in practice. But it's also about realizing that being in panic is really not going to help you, even though that fear part of you or that part of you will think that that's the right thing to do. It actually is going to hinder your progress. So that's what I always remind myself is going, yeah, but this isn't going to get me where I want to be. Now, sometimes I have to utilize a lot of tools because panic is a very biological experience, right? You've got triggered chemical reactions happening in your brain. So what's also important is to learn tools to offset that chemical cascade. And that's, of course, a lot of the stuff that we talk about too.
And pay very special attention to everybody watching this, write this down. It's like, you've got to be the leader.
Yes.
When everybody else is doing something different, acting something different, saying something different, worrying, anxiety, overwhelm, whatever it is, you've got to step up. And you've got to take that leadership role, because only you will be able to lead them out of there. You've got to hold a higher power than they do. You've got to hold a higher energy they do.
Yeah, and I think in that way, it's an incredible opportunity for people to step up into their own leadership. Whether that's leading the family, leading kids, leading people in your work environment. Whether that's for most people that's online right
Right.
now, but really just taking that opportunity. So let's move into the next one because when you kind of get that panic, then oftentimes you start reaching for things that to soothe yourself.
Right. So this is great because it does lead into, so if you're not able to be that leader, right? So then you look for ways to handle the stress, manage the
Hmm.
stress, cope with conditions, cope with the situation. And so the second most asked question that we received is how to avoid stress eating slash indulging and stuff. And so
Yeah.
stress indulging is literally, I mean, we know what stress eating is. It's like I'm eating to just deal to kind of take my mind off of things for a second. But indulging can also be it can be in food activities. It can be indulging in too much caffeine, coffee. It could be indulging in too much alcohol, wine,
Yep.
beer. It could be indulging in, it could also be indulging in behaviors. Obsessive house cleaning. You keep cleaning the
Hmm.
house over and over again, or shopping, getting
Yeah.
online and just buying a bunch of little trinkets and stuff, or needing new shoes, or just needing something, or just needing to go shopping. So there's a lot of stress indulging that happens over and over again. And the first step is to make sure that you're taking a leadership position. Like
Yep.
you are becoming greater than your environment. That's number one. That if you don't do that, and then the trick here is to realize, like, okay, I'm starting to revert into my coping mechanism. What can I do instead?
Yeah. And really looking at, one core concept we teach is about crowding out. So really looking at, just like you said, what can I do instead? What can I replace this with? Right. But again, unless you come back to that, I'm a leader, I'm capable, I can do this, it will be really tough not to stress eat. So that's why mindset is so important to get yourself back into a resourceful place. Otherwise, you will want to reach for things, to settle that fear.
Right. And what Ellie means by crowding out is finding another behavior that satisfies that need to cope that has a better end result.
Hmm.
So, and I can relate to stress eating. That's me. I'm that guy. I actually have BED, binge eating disorder, and it used to flare up a lot. So any of you guys who have seen any of those previous pictures of me as about 250, I'm down in the 170s now, but I would eat a rack of ribs as an appetizer. I would follow it up with a meal and a dessert and several drinks and things like that. So I'm really, really good at stress eating. And
Yeah.
so you have to first you got to crowd out, but then you have to deconstruct the craving. And this is a core concept that we teach. And deconstructing the craving means, on a simple level, it's like, hey, I crave ice cream Wednesdays at 8 o'clock or something like that. It's like, okay, we get it. So are you craving it because your body actually is looking for nourishments in that stuff? Are you
Hmm.
tired and your brain is looking for quick energy and it doesn't know where else to get it? Is this remembering something that was really good, or were you taught, like most of us were, that food is a reward system? And typically it's food that's less than amazing for us. That's what was used. Growing up, you kick it out at the soccer game with all your buddies and your friends and stuff like that. Next thing you know, there's a pizza party or there's ice cream or there's something like that. So you've been
Yeah.
taught this over a long period of time. But deconstructing the cravings also means behavior. And so if you're craving being antisocial, or if you're craving eating all this food, or if you're craving, shopping, if you're
Yep.
craving gambling, if you're craving whatever it is you crave to deal and cope with, you've got to deconstruct that. The only way you can't avoid it, because if you try and avoid it and just push it to the side, you'll be able to walk around it for a little while, but pretty soon it
Yeah.
just bam, like right back up at you. And next
Yeah.
thing you know, you just polished off 8,000 calories of freaking cheese balls. So you're like, what the hell
Yeah.
just happened? And so you've
Yeah.
got to deconstruct why that craving is there in the first place, where it came from. Then you can start to figure out, okay, now I can bring in some things to crowd out that behavior because I know what happened, I know why it's there, and I know why I do it. Does that make
Hmm.
sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I think the big thing is, how can you self-soothe in other ways, right? And, just getting curious, just trying something different giving yourself, even if you try something different for 2 minutes than you normally would, and then you go back to, your old kind of routine, that's really helping you pattern interrupt. And that's a really important process in all of this. So again, though, the fastest and quickest way you can avoid stress eating is to really get your mind and panic under control. Because again, when you're stressing out like that, typically, again, why they call it stress eating is because, you're stressed about something. So let's figure out what that thing is and how to really knock that off at the knees so that you can move forward.
Right. And for those of you guys watching this either live or in the future, if you have questions, put them down into the comments below and we'll be sure to answer them. And so that leads us kind of into number 3. In LA, we should really just do an entire live on just stress indulging. Right?
Yeah.
And get deeper into that. And number 3 is, and this is a legit one. And this comes from people who are living in cities and more urban environments, is how do you keep active without the gym? And, some of the questions we were seeing is like, how do you keep active, or how do you work out? How do you exercise without going to the gym, which is a giant possible way to spread things very quickly, while being safe without going out in the middle of the morning when it's completely dark when you live in a big city.
Yeah.
And so,
I think the first step is, of course, I've seen a lot of people are taking their fitness online, and teaching people online. So again, as long as you have, internet access, being able to work out from home is a great option. There are lots of workouts you can do that just use your body weight. So that's a really great thing. You don't have to have a set of weights around. But the other important thing is, again, I take this as an opportunity to get creative. Maybe you're going to bust out of a rut you've been in as far as exercise goes, especially if you've been going to the gym. Maybe you're going to discover something really cool. If it comes to cardio, again, I think one of the most fun, amazing ways to get exercise is what about just even dancing, right? Dancing around your house, or maybe even you're going to practice like you're a kung fu master, whatever it might be, is to actually just organically move your body in a lot of different ways, which is one thing that people really don't do when they go to the gym. There's a very regimented way that they're doing things.
True. I would preface that with, okay, why are you going to the gym in the first place?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is a craving. So we talked about this in point number 2 is deconstructing your craving. Okay, so you're going to the gym. Mm-hmm. Okay, why do you rely on the gym for exercise? And there's a lot of very valid reasons there. It's because that's the only thing I can do there, and everybody else is doing it, and it's going to make me look silly if I'm laying on the floor, or just sitting on a couch while everybody else is working out. So there's that motivation there. There's other people who are recovering or working on a very specific part of the body. So some of those machines in there are very, very useful for that. I mean, I've had knee surgeries, I've had shoulder pains, and, getting into the gym sometimes is really required, even though I prefer not to go to the gym, but it really helps with that recovery, strengthening that certain thing. And then other times it just makes it easy because you get on a piece of equipment, you can set it on the low setting, and it's like, it's doable, right? And so you're taking baby steps and you're moving forward.
Yep.
So you really have to ask, why is it I'm going to the gym? Or is it because I'm working downtown? It's right next door to my office. I got a lunch break. I can get over there and I can get to it. So how do you keep active without the gym? My first thing is, now we talked about, while being safe. So that is absolutely critical. Do you have the ability to schedule some time during daylight hours to get outside? That would be my thing. Or to drive to a safer area like a park that is more open, where you don't have a concentration of people on top of you and heavy breathing and sweat flying around and fans circulating it and all this kind of stuff. If you don't, then what Elliot was talking about is like, okay, we're going to have to keep it indoors for right now. You live in a condo or an apartment in the city, getting outside during the day, during the dark can be iffy at best. And then now you want to learn, you still want to keep it up. So if you're there for the motivation, honestly, a workout video, and there's no shortage of them. There's so many free ones on YouTube. You've just got to find the instructor that you vibe with, that you like. I mean, there's no shortage of Beachbody videos, from that company and stuff like that. And it just depends on who you go with, and that will mimic the being in an environment with other people. That's the closest thing you can do. The other thing is to search for, I've always wanted to try blank.
Yep.
Well, now's your opportunity to try blank to see if you're going to do it. The trick here, though, is to keep active without the gym is you've got to mark it on your calendar. Keep that same time during the day and
Yeah.
make sure that you're doing something. And sometimes, people forget that working out, which I don't ever like to use the term workout or exercise, that there are things that you can do that are actually remodeling your house, painting, things like that, movement, full body motion. Look to plyometrics. Plyometrics is huge. And that is basically pushing your away from the planet is basically what it means, leaving the planet. And it requires no weights. There are a lot of things you can do. If you can get outside, I would say get to a park. One of the most simple, rewarding, toughest workouts on the planet is get out there and jog, and every quarter mile drop and do some burpees. Like it's a no joke, simple, very easy, cost effective way to get into shape really fast.
Yeah, it is.
That's where you got to really embrace the suck. But
Well, and I think too, I wanted to jump in and talk about, we started talking about panic. So there are some things like yin yoga and yoga nidra, which are incredible for dialing down the panic and also getting you moving, getting you stretching, which can feel, again, really, really good. As far as just moving your body in different ways, I would also really suggest, and we'll post this in the comments, watching the documentary Just Move with Ido Portal, because he really talks about, again, this idea that I broached in the beginning here, that we're so used to moving in very specific ways. And like Adam said, this is an opportunity to try something new on, right? To again, shake things up. As I said, right now we have the excuse to just do something different, which is really, really cool. So if you can go at it from a space of curiosity and say, okay, what could I do? What's available to me? Find something that's interesting.
Okay, I want to back up here. And no, we have the excuse right now to sit at home, eat a lot of food, and not move very much. Mm-hmm. We have the biggest excuse. We have a very valid excuse to do that. Mm-hmm. And the trick is, don't let that happen, because that's what's the easy route. It's just to sit home, eat, not move a whole lot, let the panic set in or the worry, even if it's low grade, and then next thing you know, the coping mechanisms kick in, the what we call the indulging or the stress eating or the shopping or the gambling or the drinking or the obsessive cleaning or folding things way too many times or whatever it is. Everybody's got their own thing. I've got mine. I'm sure everybody's got theirs. And it's really just taking this time and really learning what it is that has been in your life. What lifestyle behaviors, what choices have you been making that have actually been zapping your energy? What stories, what state have you been living in? Are you living in a state of reacting? This is something we covered in a previous live, and I think it's really important. Are you living in a state of reacting, or are you living in a state of creating? And if you're living in a state of reacting, then you're gonna be like the rest of them. You're gonna, likely your health is gonna take a little bit of a beating. It's a slow process over time. You're probably not going to sleep as deeply as you should be. You're not going to be performing at your best with your career, let alone having the positive impact with your family and the colleagues and friends that you could actually get in contact with right now. And so you've got to move from that state of reacting to that state of creating. And the only way to do that, guys, is to become greater than your environment. You've got to be greater than the conditions being presented to you.
Yep.
And if you're having trouble doing that, we invite you to come over to movethinksmile.com/talk and to book a call with us. We specialize in injecting health, energy, freedom into high performing situations. We like to focus on careers. We like to focus on businesses, but we're talking about high performing situations. Those situations, those environments where you're required to be at your best, to be at your top without sacrificing your health and sanity. So if that's something you guys sounds interesting to you, come on over to movethinksmile.com/talk, book a call with us. There's no cost for the call. We'll kind of take a look at where you're at. We'll see if there's some things that we can recommend that will help you out. And if so, we can talk about that. And if not, we'll suggest who can get you to that next level. And on that, guys, Ellie, were there any other questions? Did I miss anything?
No, I think that was it for right now, but I just really enjoyed those questions and, being able to come up with some ideas around that and answer those. And so I hope that we gave everyone who submitted those questions, and as Adam said, we kind of had variations of the same ones, that what we shared today was helpful. And as Adam said, post more questions if you have them. We'll tackle that. We're going to be in the group live a little bit more as well this week. So we're here.
Yep. Yeah. Put your questions down below or, in the comments box. And, if we didn't answer it now, and if you're watching this live, cool. If you're not watching this live, put them down there. We're happy to answer them. And just be really specific. What is it we can help you with? How can we best support you guys? And on that note, come over to movethinksmile.com/talk, get on the calendar, and we'll talk soon.
Bye, guys.